Oh, man. Okay. Hello, if you're listening to this or watching this, it's me, Madison. I'm the host of Ice Cold Case and the daughter of John Cornelius McGhee, the man you've been hearing a lot about over the last few episodes, and about his life and his death and the circumstances surrounding it. And I've never really done this on this feed before, but I wanted to do a little update. No notes. I have a few notes. I have a few things I want to address, talk about, share regarding my dad's case, some updates, podcast updates, life updates. And this just felt like the easiest, most organic, natural way to do it. And I've never really done anything on this feed that has just been me rambling without a script, so bear with me. But there are just some things that I wanted to share specifically to give some answers to why there haven't been new episodes and also just provide some updates. I know a lot of people feel very invested in my dad's case, which I'm grateful for. And there have been some really exciting movements that I wanted to share now before I jump back into making episodes. So, yeah, I guess we could start with today, July 23rd, is my 30th birthday. And I've been reflecting on so much recently just because my life is really one big piece of reflection because of the work that I'm doing. But more so now because I'm turning 30 and it's like the turn of a decade. And, all of these things can make you feel really sentimental, nostalgic, and really take inventory of like your life and where you're at and the expectations maybe you had for yourself when you were turning 30 that now you realize were completely ridiculous and not realistic at all. And here I am, 30. And I want to say that I learned a lot. But some days I really wonder if I've learned anything at all. Because it feels like life is not so linear in that way. But yeah, I'm 30. And I've spent a lot of the last few months reflecting on what that is supposed to mean and what that does actually mean to me, and wondering if a lot of the situations I'm in would have been better if they were aided by the advice of my dad. Wonder what he would say, wonder what he would think. I'm hopefully moving apartments soon. And I keep thinking like, wow, it'd be so much easier if like my dad was flying in to like carry boxes and help me out. And it really ties back into what I'm doing right now with my life and my career, for lack of a better word, which is this podcast that you're listening to, that you've been listening to potentially, or you're just jumping in now and things would be very confusing for you. I would go back to the beginning. But this show has evolved a lot. There are people messaging me, asking me for new episodes and wondering when the new episode is going to drop. That was not the case in the beginning because this is an independent show and its roots are very grass. And I never thought it would evolve in the way that it has, good and bad. And so I want to explain a little bit about my journey doing this. Because if you've been listening and you've heard it from the beginning, it's very journalistic in the sense that I write the script, I pour over it, I am very meticulous with what words are used and the emotion that's conveyed and how it's said and I'm saying and how it all ties together, and outlines for several episodes in advance to know how it all sort of will tell a story in its wholeness. And I don't get to be really raw, and I don't really get to tell the story of how this all happened in my own words without writing them and rehearsing them. So I want to go back to the beginning to give you a bit of an understanding of how I even got here to this point right now. I was 6, obviously, when my dad was murdered. And you know the story. I won't go into the details about. I thought he had a heart attack. I went to the funeral. Things were really weird. A lot of my early childhood is a blur. It's in and out moments. I don't remember a lot of stuff. I think that was part of a protection thing where I was just blocking it out. But when I turned 16, I found out my dad was actually murdered. I had probably already struggled with depression and anxiety for a very long time up until this point, through lots of different traumatic instances. Um, Growing up biracial in West Virginia, my mom being in and out because of a drug addiction, my grandmother raising me. But of course, like that generational gap really does impact what content you're consuming, what TV shows you're watching, what movies you're watching, because, you're raised by a little bit of an older generation and you have that little bit of, we called my grandmother the hovercraft. She was very protective and I was not allowed to get away with anything. I mean, I couldn't like stay out late with my friends, even if I wasn't doing anything mischievous. She was very much like, hovercraft is the best way to describe her and her very famous nickname in my hometown. So I was very shielded. And I think that instilled this sense of otherness also because I wasn't as included with everyone because sometimes I wasn't allowed to do things. I wasn't allowed to go to different places. Um, that all built up into lots of things. And I don't need to go into like my whole trauma story because there's just lots of different moments and memories there. But you build all of that up and then you find out your dad was murdered. And I don't think there is a feeling like finding out that you're in a category of people that now they're coining co-victim like that. I mean, there really isn't any feeling like that. You feel like you are in a category that doesn't exist. Like you're filling out one of those forms and it's asking you, are you Black, white, Latina, like what are you? And then it's other, and it feels like if you're a co-victim of murder, it's like you're other. Like it is such a small, weird niche of experiences. And even in that, everyone's experience is so different that you really don't feel like you have anyone who understands what you're going through or relates to it, even if it's my own sister who's experiencing it with the same person. We're experiencing it differently. And to feel that at 16 when you're already going through this like identity crisis is just a nightmare. And I went to college very young. I was 17 when I went to college. So I'm also experiencing this otherness and dealing with this very silently. This was all building up in my head, the depression and anxiety about my dad, but also just regular life too. I mean, I think there's so much more to me as a person and the dynamics of who I am than just my dad's murder. But that was definitely a part of it. And it sat with me for a really long time. When the pandemic hit and I had a little bit of time to start diving into the case files, it didn't start all consuming. It didn't feel like it was my whole life. I was reading case files every once in a while. I was making phone calls every couple months, checking in with people every so often. It wasn't this all consuming thing. It didn't feel like a weight, really. It was like a thing that I was doing in my spare time. When I decided to launch the show and really dive into putting together all of the pieces, it felt like I was structuring an art painting, a puzzle. I had a lot of different materials and I needed to place them where they belonged. And if you're any sort of creative, I think that's the part of a creative project that can make it pretty overwhelming in a way where like it just takes over your life and you're constantly thinking about, okay, this goes here and this goes here. Okay, I'm going to take a break for lunch. And while you're eating lunch, you're going, what if I moved that over here? And what if this went here? And that's what I kind of started to do with my dad's case and the show. And those two things in my mind are separate but the same. The investigation into my dad's murder is a whole part of this. The show is just what comes from it. It's what I put together and architecturally design after I've investigated. And so those two things are so different in my mind, that you all see this podcast and this show, and what you don't see really is the deep diving and the investigating and the phone calling and the showing up and all of these things that I'm doing just to get more information, to then put together a show, to then put the show out. And the show is sort of this piece of the investigation, which I've talked about in the podcast before, how it's sort of become an investigative tool. But it's just one tool. There's so many other things I'm doing. And that's where it becomes really overwhelming, which leads to why I haven't been putting out any episodes. Just fully transparent. Last year was really tough for the show. For me, it's when things started to cost a lot more money, get really exhausting as far as the logistics and the planning, and I was starting to feel really physically ill over a lot of it, but I pushed through because this was really important to me, and solving my dad's murder is of the highest importance in my life. And over time, it has become a job. Not in the sense that it pays me a salary. I always like to say I'm more of an unpaid intern, but it's really taken over. And I think one of the things that people don't understand is that I'm not making any money on this. So when I first launched the show, obviously it was no money at all. I didn't even know how to make money off the show. So for the first 9 episodes, I didn't run any ads because I didn't really know how. So I was making no money. And as the show grew in popularity, I don't know if it's because we see people on social media, TikTok, reality TV, where we just assume that popularity equals income. And if you are getting press or getting attention in some way, that must equate to making money. That's not true. A lot of it's a show. It's a circus. And I was doing what I thought was best to get my dad's case out there by creating sort of this media buzz around me and the show, to put pressure on the Belmont County Sheriff's Department to go, oh no, if this girl becomes famous for this, we've really got a problem on our hands. We have to do something. And so that's what I did. I mean, I tried to do everything, but the more press I would get, I think the more the assumption was that there was money involved. And that's just not the case. I was using a really bare bones crew to make this show. And I'll never, ever, 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 ever forget the team that helped me launch this show. Cody Campbell, who mixed every episode for the first 17 episodes for free, never charging a penny. All of the sound effects, the music, everything that was placed and orchestrated into the episodes, he did that for no money. Jeremy Bembo, who helped copy edit, helped me write some of the episodes, was always there when we were recording, tweaking things, telling me, oh, let's run that back again, making the show as good as it possibly could be, has never made a penny off of this show. Austin Christensen, who has done all of the graphic design, motion graphic designs, the beautiful trailers that you see that look like they are Netflix documentaries. It takes him forever to make those, has never made $1. Shekinah Starks, who was creative directing, sitting in, helping me tweak certain things, sit a certain way. Let's move some cameras. Let's do this. Let's help you with social. Let's post this. Never made $1. Michael Hoff, who also was creative directing, following me around with a camera, coming to CrimeCon with me, no money. There are so many people that have helped with this show. Matt Bettinson made all of the original music. He never charged me. Now, as those people got paying jobs or needed to step away from the show, because it's a lot of work, it's a labor of love, and we weren't turning a profit where they could get paid. So they needed to step away to do other paid work, which these are all my friends, I fully support that. I found an incredible sound mixer who is just amazing, Shan McMullen. She does so much more than what she's paid to do, and they sound amazing, and it's just been incredible. She's sort of now the only person really on the team. I had Ophelie Garcia Lawler working with me for a while, who is also amazing and needed to work on paid work. I mean, it's like, this is just the reality of the world we're living in, you know? And I had as much help as possible for as long as they could give it. And that was always sort of the understanding was, I'm here to help as long as I possibly can. And I was grateful for every single bit of it. And when, people started to get busy, the economy started to shift, I really felt the weight of like, wow, I was really supported and lifted by these people. And as they start to do other things, I'm feeling it. It's a lot. And now I need to come up with money to pay for mixing. So all of that to say, I had an episode kind of ready that Ophelia and I worked on in the spring. And in April, I came into the studio and I recorded it. And I went home. I got the clips in and the audio in, and I start to cut it all together because I'm my own editor. And there was something about that episode that was so incredibly difficult for me to work on. It was emotional. It was really hard. I was listening back to an interview that was really difficult for me to listen back to. And an episode that was supposed to be edited by the end of April, as of the day I'm recording this, is still not finished. And I think the longer I go, the harder it is to jump back in. So that's probably part of it. I think it's a little bit of my depression and anxiety working against me. I think it's a little bit of my financial situation just creating a lot of stressors that aren't conducive to getting things done. But there is normally a level of push through that I'm able to do, that I'm able to acquire through some sort of energetic shift and just keep going. And that's just not been possible. I'm finally almost finished with this episode, and I'm very excited to share it because I just want to push it out of the nest, honestly. But I do think it's just a really good episode, and it sets the scene for a lot of updates that are going to happen. But I wanted to just really honestly convey how difficult it has been to sit down and get this done. Months. And I want to apologize because I know that there are people who have been really supporting me, writing for me, listening, downloading, doing all of the things. And I don't want you to feel like you were left without sort of this piece of explanation or closure. The show is not ending right this second. I have a little bit more to do, but it has been really, really difficult. And oh my goodness. I've just been trying to keep it all together. I probably dreamed in a Delulu way that it would be solved by now for sure, not understanding the hoops and hurdles that are required for a case to go through a court system. But I really had different ideas for what it would look like in the sense of my dad's case by the time I hit 30, and had really high hopes. I don't know if I'd say expectations, but high hopes. I wanted to be optimistic and try to put myself in the best headspace for good things to happen. Those things just didn't really pan out that way. I have this moment every once in a while, more often in the last few months, where I wonder if my life would have been better if I didn't know what happened to my dad. To be completely transparent with you, even though I've met amazing people and have dedicated listeners like you who are following along and invested in this case in some way, whether it's from a financial perspective or time, I wonder if my life would be better without all of that. I think the pressure of it is daunting. The pressure of just solving the case is incredibly high. And I put pressure on myself too. that I know I shouldn't, but you can't really help it. People can tell you all the time, don't be so hard on yourself. And you can tell someone that 1,000 times. They will continue to be hard on themselves. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that advice and went, you know what? I think I'm going to just stop doing that right now. If they could have, they would have. And I feel like I'm in that boat where if I could put less pressure on myself, trust me, I would have done that a long time ago. That's the way I'm wired, and I'm working on it, and I'm trying to do a little bit less, but it is just something about me that I put pressure on myself. And I think, pressure makes diamonds or whatever, but it's sometimes you just get to a point where you're like, I'm not really sure what all of this is for. I also want to talk about the podcast industry and how things have been shuffling and changing and evolving in that space in good and not great ways. There was a time where people were making a ton of money in podcasting, and ad companies were offering what they call minimum guarantees, which is an amount of money that no matter how many downloads you get, you will make minimum that month. You'll probably hit more downloads than that and you'll make more money, but this is like guaranteed money for the next insert contract term here that you'll make. And that doesn't happen anymore. There's also so many podcasts, so many options for you to choose from. And there's lots of different people that are worthy of your time and attention. And so breaking through that has been, difficult, of course, but I think even the top of the top are not making what they were at one point in podcasting. And that obviously trickles down into if you're at the bottom, then you're really making not a lot of money. So it's hard to sustain. So people will do deals with podcast companies and networks and try to make it all work. But in that, you lose ownership of the thing you've created. Now, for me, that's difficult because the thing I've created is a story about my own life and a story about my own dad. And that can really get into life rights type situations when you're signing IP over and what's included and what's not included. Well, in the podcast, she discusses all of these things. Is that part of it? Can I not talk about those things anywhere else? It gets really complicated. And so I've remained independent because it's too stressful to worry about who owns what parts of your own story. And working with people that maybe you don't fully know in order to fully trust them of what they're going to do with that. So it can get really sticky when you're trying to find the right partner to help with the financial piece of that and carry a little bit of that load. It's tough to find the right person that you trust to do that with. I was really hoping that by the time I was 30, I would be done with the episode 21 and I would be, moving along right along with more episodes. The original plan was actually to be fully wrapped with Ice Cold Case investigating the murder of John Cornelius McGhee by the time my birthday hit so that I could really kind of take some time to reevaluate and refresh what I was going to do. But that's not the reality at this point. So what I am here to say after all of that, if you didn't listen in 2x speed and whatever, I try to be quick and explain as much as possible and give credit where credit is due. But what you can expect, you're probably wondering what I'm thinking, what I'm going to do. That's why you're all here. My plan right now is to get you episode 21 as soon as possible. So honestly, no matter what day of the week it is, I think the minute that I get it back, I do my QA, listen through, and it's good to go. I'll just upload it that day, get it out to you so that you have it. And from there, I would like to get all the way up through episode 27 and wrap this up with the loosest of bows because I'm at a point where I'm not really sure what more I can do for my dad's case in a public perspective. There's a lot I can be doing behind the scenes and doing a lot of public advocating, but not really on a creation standpoint at this time. Are there enough things to say beyond episode 27 about my dad's case? But of course, as things progress, maybe in 6 months, a year, who knows? It could be 3 weeks. It just depends on what is transpiring. I will be sure to update you as I can, but not in a way where it's consistent episodes. I have some things up my sleeve that you haven't heard yet that you will be getting all the way through episode 27. And once that finishes, I had been thinking about what I wanted to do just because, I haven't really been able to work regular jobs because people know me from the podcast. People think of me as a podcaster. It's been difficult to sort of land a real job, whatever that means these days. And I have a platform where people like you are listening and people like you care. And I want to keep my feed alive so that when there are updates about my dad, you get them. So something I've been thinking about is covering other people's cases. Um, it's something that's been weighing on my heart. I get a lot of messages from family members who have lost a loved one whose case is completely unsolved. I meet with people who do research on a regular basis that have been researching cold cases that no one's really talking about. And I want to stay true to the intention of this show, which was to solve my dad's murder. Someone who is not a perfect victim, someone who does not get the attention that other cold cases get. And if I can provide that space for family members to have 45 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour and a half of my feed and the space to have their loved one's story told, maybe that's something I can do in the meantime while I'm still gathering information about my dad and I'm unable to give updates. Maybe I can present you with some cases in the same style where I made my dad's show high production quality and compelling and music cues and really interesting moments and cliffhangers so that you want to keep listening, but still respectful of my dad. Maybe I can do that for other people's cases. And it will be just a one episode, potentially two-parters, for cold cases that maybe you've just loosely seen because they're not getting a lot of media attention or you've never even heard of before. And I will leave the email address open for tips. If you decide you want to go down a Reddit thread and go down a rabbit hole to help one of these families because you feel like you resonate with one of them or you feel very strongly connected to one, I'm going to leave those channels open and allow this to now serve as a space for people who really need help. I will be working directly with the families and a researcher who works directly with the families. Every episode will come with a family stamp of approval. They will provide further information for where they can submit tips to. I will leave the email open, like I said, and send all of those along as well. But if they're working with local law enforcement or there's a tip line that the police have set up, I will be sure to include all of that so that we can really maybe help people. And a lot of people joke that I'm similar to John Walsh, which I love because I'm a huge fan of him in general, but I also love what he's done. He lost his son in a Sears when his son was very young, Adam Walsh, and later they found him dead. And that instance in his life is what sparked America's Most Wanted. Perhaps you've heard of it. And the way that they were able to help families and victims and find perpetrators through a show that every week covered a new case and provided a tip line and asked the public for help. I feel very strongly compelled to do that, at least for a little while. While I feel very hopeless in my dad's situation, maybe I can provide hope for someone else. And I can't help but think if someone had approached me a long time ago and said, hey, it's not much, but I want to do 45 minutes about your dad's case on my podcast, I would have welcomed that with open arms. And if I can do that for someone, I would like to do that. So that is maybe something that I'm going to explore and something that you can expect here once I feel like I've finished the work that I can do up to now on my dad's case. Another update with that is, and the reason why now feels like an organic time to start wrapping up these final episodes is that my dad's case was assigned a new detective. You'll hear more about that in the next few episodes, but there is a level of rapport that I would like to build with this person and try to work together to solve my dad's case and really get this across the finish line and get closure not only for myself, which I do feel like I deserve, but also mostly for my sister, who has lived with an incredible amount of pain from experiencing that day firsthand. And everything that came with that trauma throughout the rest of her life. The way that it's impacted her day to day, the way that it's impacted her interpersonal relationships. She deserves to know who took all of that away from her. And I deserve to know who took away my dad. And that will never change. That mission is not going anywhere. That desire is not shifting. But I've discovered new purpose through doing this. And I've met people whose stories have broken my heart. And if I can help them in ways that I wish someone had helped me, even if it's something as small as telling their story to all of you wonderful people who have stuck around and listened to me ramble about my dad and talk in circles and not find closure yet, then I want to share those stories with you because maybe you'll care about them the way that you've cared about me. I also want to say, because I'm putting this out before I've really finished the show, but I just felt like you deserved an update. There are still, you'll have 6 more left to listen to after episode 21. So, we've still got some time, but I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has stuck around this long and has listened and supported me and this show. It has kept me alive in ways that you really don't understand. It's gotten me out of bed. It's made me take a shower after a few too many days. It's gotten me to eat a meal when it's been days since my last. It's gotten me to show up today to record an episode that I really did not want to do. I did not want to be here telling you all of the ways that I've failed, all of the ways that I didn't get the job done, all of the ways that I didn't complete this mission, and I've slacked off on editing and I haven't finished doing these things. I did not want to be here and do this, but it felt like I needed to for those people, for you. So I appreciate all of the support. I feel like for someone who has a lot to say a lot of the time and can write and edit and do all of these things, I feel like I have a lot less to say these days. And I haven't felt that loss for words in a really long time. Podcasting's hard. It's difficult in ways that you don't really expect it to be. It's easy in ways that you don't expect it to be. And it's been a really crazy journey navigating and figuring out all of this stuff. But I'm here. I've created a little corner of the internet that allows me to exist. And even though I haven't done this before and I haven't been really raw and unfiltered and just talking at you for however long this is going to end up being, knowing that I have the space to do that is comforting in a way. And I will be back to do this again, I'm sure, at some point, because I do feel like it allows you in a little bit more of like what's going on and what's happening behind the scenes, but also gives me a chance to kind of explain in ways that I don't really get to do in the style of show that I do. Which is how I want to keep moving. I like the journalistic approach. I like the facts, the figures, the cinematic quality of inserting music here and doing that. And that's how I want to share these other people's stories. I want to provide the high quality treatment that really big podcast networks provide their stories. And I want to do that for the stories that don't get told. So that's my mission. That's the goal. Let's get through my dad's case together. I have just a few more left for you. I will be putting them up immediately as soon as they're ready. Let's say schedule be damned for now. Let's just get these episodes out. If they're ready early, they're going to come out. If they're ready on a day that I don't normally upload, they're going to come out. And I just want to get through this with you and share what I have and put some pressure on the police department to solve my dad's murder. And while I go back to the drawing board to figure out exactly how to do that, I'm going to be sharing new cases with you. I think that's the plan. I'm like, what I think it is. I'm pretty sure I'm just oh my gosh. Anyways, I said raw and unfiltered, and that's this for sure. So yeah, if you're listening to this, I'm 30. I have a new episode coming out as soon as possible. I am getting to episode 27 of this freaking podcast, and then I'm going to pivot a little bit. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you soon.